been another month. That is crazy. How time flies for you and me, I guess. I don't know. It's been 23 days for me. It's only the 23rd. Currently. What have I been watching TV-wise? I figure I'll get that over and done with to begin with. I finished season 4 and I'm just started season 5, or maybe I've finished season 5 and I'm currently working my way through season 6 of The Shield. The Shield has been very good. I think I'm on season 6, right? It's not telling me. Season 6. I'm on to season 6. Season 5 was excellent. Season 4 was excellent. I don't even know if I mentioned that last month. I don't know if I finished it last month or not. I've taken my time between seasons, but season 6 picks up right after season 5 ended, so I'm kind of like, gotta get straight into it. We also had the last season of Evil come out, which has now finished. I won't say spoilers because you might not even know what the hell it is, but it is excellent. Loved it. It does feel a little bit maybe rushed, arguably, that the season is the last season. You know, you have the regular 10-episode block, and then you get an extra 4 episodes, which are basically just 4 extra episodes. I love this show so much. It got to the point that I found out the day, like last week, when the penultimate episode was airing, that my brother had been watching it, and he'd been binging it for the past couple of weeks. So he was thinking that it was the last episode, and I came in, I'm like, "You're watching Evil?" And he's like, "You know what Evil is?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've been watching it for years, since it came out." And he thought that was the last episode. He was wrong. It was the second last. So today we watched the last episode together, which was cool because well, he's actually moving out this weekend, so it's like, just as like a cool little thing that we get to do is just enjoy the last episode together, which was really fun, you know? But no, it was really great. I loved it. I really, really hope that this show gets like a good like 4K Blu-ray set, because all the episodes are like on Paramount Plus are in 4K anyway, so I'd hope. I don't want to have to stream it again. It already went from like Stan to Paramount Plus. I think some of it's on Netflix now because streaming rights are just kind of a bit relaxed to some degree. I guess I'll put the first season of this show on Netflix like Yellow Jackets, then people will come to Paramount to watch the rest. But yeah, so anyway, good show. Highly worth watching. What do we watch in terms of movies? Oh, now this is where it gets saucy. So I've watched a lot of movies so far. Let's jump into it. We started with In a Violent Nature. Double featured it with Trap. Both of them I gave 4.5 stars. In a Violent Nature was just so fucking funny. But like in this kind of satirical pointing jabs at, hey, you like Friday the 13th? What if we just follow the killer? Sure. Could have been a whole hour longer of just us watching the killer. You know, there's been those complaints of it's either not enough slow burn or not enough over the top kills. I don't know. I think there was another half that people were critical about, but I think it was wonderful. I cannot wait to watch it again. It's good. It's very good. If there was an extended cut just showing more footage of him just walking through the woods, I would find it to be great. But it has that trope of like, it's humorous that he's walking through the woods so slowly for the first hour and a bit, but then by the end of it, it became genuinely terrifying because you're like, you switch perspectives and it's like, oh my god, when's he gonna come out? Oh my god, it's great. I love it. It's such a great execution of a play on the genre, and I love that. Trap, wonderful. I gave it 4.5 stars. Shyamalan, my guy, he's just hitting them out of the bag, dude. He's made so many great films that people just shit talk because human people don't talk like that. Get fucked. They're movies. Who cares? So, yeah. Anyway, wonderful. Really enjoyed it. Had a great time with my mate watching it. Him and I both Shyamalan heads, so it's getting fun. Then I had a very long weekend of work, so I ended up being like, you know what, I want to watch a comfortable, relaxing movie. Let's watch the Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring extended cut. I watched the 4K extended cut because I wanted to fall asleep to it. It had been suggested that, you know, on Reddit that like, oh, it's a good movie to fall asleep to because, you know, it's a beautiful score and it's such a comforting movie. But then, you know, you get to like the Nazgul and you get to all the bad guys and you get their themes and suddenly I'm like alive and awake and I'm like, fuck, this wasn't meant to happen. So I watched the whole thing and I loved it. I followed that on the Sunday with the Two Towers extended cut. I gave Fellowship 4.5 stars. Love it. For me, it's an almost perfect film. I don't know. I think maybe the theatrical cut is a little bit better but the thing is, again, it's the only extended cut that I don't think adds too much detail that isn't already covered or isn't detailed more in the later films or whatever. I still enjoy watching it, probably more over the theatrical cuts. But you know, it is what it is. Good, 4.5, love it. Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, 5 stars, love it. Extended cut is so much more fun than the theatrical cut, which I watched last time, and I'm like, no wonder I watched the extended cuts as a kid all the time, because I never ever watched the theatricals until I got like the 4K releases for the first time, and I was like, man, they're not bad, but it's like, I love the extended cuts so much more. On the 5th, I watched 3 movies. I watched The Whistler from 1944, gave it 4 stars, because I got that Whistler box set from Indicator Powerhouse. I followed that up with Mark of the Whistler, which was, I gave 3.5 stars. They're all like hour-long films, 2 films on 1 disc, so I made it easy to double feature them, whatever. Give yourself an hour and 10 minutes, bam, there's 2 films done, easy peasy. And then I followed up with The Toxic Avenger Part 2. Man, I gotta watch Part 3, I haven't done that yet. My friend said that was a mistake because they were filmed back-to-back, and I should have just done that, but, you know, it is what it is. I watched the 4K, it's fun. The movie isn't great. It's the most of it is him spent in Japan, and it's really goofy. But like the first 20 minutes are really fun, and the last 10 minutes are pretty fun. So I still gave it 3 stars, and I enjoyed it, even though it's stupid as hell. But you know, it's not as good as the first one for sure, but it's enjoyable. Then I watched The Voyeurs, which I gave 2.5 stars. I watched that part of my Sydney Sweeney review, so feel free to check that out if you haven't already. Then I watched Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, extended cut. Gave it 5 stars. I think it's my favorite of the 3. My opinion always changes. Last time The Two Towers was my favorite. Originally it was Fellowship. This time it's Return of the King. You know, it always just plays. Sometimes I prefer this one, sometimes I prefer that one. I love the mood and the energy of Fellowship, but I love just like the direness of Two Towers, but then I love the resolutions of Return of the King. It's a thing. Then on the 8th, I did a triple feature again of Power of the Whistler, which I gave 3 stars, and Voice of the Whistler, which I gave 2.5 stars. By this stage, I'm definitely not giving them the likes anymore, but they're just like fine. It depends on how much I actually enjoy the plot and the characters within the hour that you get, and they're kind of starting to go a bit downhill, but they're still watchable, perfectly fine noirs, you know, nice, interesting mysteries sometimes. When they're directed by Castle, they're usually really good, even though I think Voice of the Whistler has like the weakest plot, but has Castle's directions, and that's like the only thing that keeps it going for me. Also, annoyingly, it's the one that Lee did his commentary on, so I have to rewatch it, and so far it's been my least favourite of the series, which sucks. Then I watched Madam Web, because it was on Amazon Prime, and I gave it 1.5 stars. It was not good, but again, in my Sydney Sweeney review, I cannot believe I watched all those films just to review her performances. Yeah, I'm very happy I did not watch this, like, I mean, in cinema maybe, okay, but getting the 4K for this would have pissed me off. So I was okay with watching it on Amazon. Yeah, it's okay. I don't think it was a 4K. No, it wasn't. The 4K you had to rent, but you know, it is what it is. On the 9th, I did an interesting double feature. I went to my partner's place. We watched Trap. I gave it 5 stars. I got to introduce it to her. I was thinking, it's only been like a week since I last watched it. I know she wants to watch it, whatever, I'll watch it with her. And it just captivated me more. I realized, like, there was a great section. The whole last act became exceedingly tense for me. Even though I knew what was going to happen, I was just, like, blown away. Because the first time I watched it, I'm like, my God, this movie's still going. And then it's still going, and it's still going. But then the second time I watched it, I'm like, yes! I'm like in my seat. It's like that meme of the guy leaning forward. That's just me for the whole second half of the movie. And I love the first half of the movie already, so, you know. But we got back to her place, and her mum had just clicked play on The Sixth Sense, which neither of them had watched. So they didn't know the twists. So I got to watch it with them for the first time, and like, her mum got so scared when it became a horror film. She's like, oh fuck, there are ghosts? I don't want a horror film. I'm like, don't worry, it'll be over soon, because once that happens, you got like 25 minutes left of the movie, you're fine. It goes surprisingly quick once the first twist happens, which is great. I gave it 4.5 stars. Really, really good, obviously. On the 10th, my partner and I watched Immaculate, because we got the Blu-ray, again for my Sydney Sweeney review. I gave it 2 stars. Exceedingly lackluster, could have been a lot better. I talk about it in my review in that video. On the 11th, I did is that a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Technically, films. I watched Prometheus. I watched the 4K. I was in the mood to watch Alien Covenant, but I'm like, I want to watch Prometheus again. So, I don't know, weird habit. Let's just watch Prometheus again. That's normal. I love it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I like it more every time I watch it. I know there are still stupid character decisions, and everyone loves that, Prometheus school of running away from things that, of course, CinemaSins unfortunately coined. I say unfortunately because it's like creating a scholarly genius who also happens to be a pedophile. It's like, God damn it, if only he wasn't a bad person, I'd be more appreciative of the fact that this is a great, bit, a great quote. So, yeah, but I like it. I think it's really fun. I think it's really interesting, thematically rich. It's a hell of a picture. And then I watched the Simpsons movie. Really weird contrast, but my brother and his girlfriend wanted to watch a film, and they were like, we've only got 90 minutes, let's watch a funny movie, and they wanted to watch the Simpsons movie, and I had the Blu-ray, so we watched that. So that was fun. Gave it 3.5 stars. I hadn't watched it in 3 years, even though I thought I watched it last year. Time flies. Then I watched a bunch of promo stuff for Prometheus. There was they're all Peter Whalen files. There's Quiet Eye, Elizabeth Shaw, Happy Birthday David, Prometheus Transmission, and TED Conference 2023. They're all fine. None of them I think are exceedingly amazing. The only one that's probably really worth watching is the TED Conference. But outside of that, they're fine, I wanted to watch this extended canon because I'd never really watched it before, and most of it was just, promo stuff for the movie that doesn't actually really affect the plot or the characters that much, so it's fine. On the 12th, I got home and did the exact same thing. I've watched a bunch of shit, all in the lead up to rewatching Alien Covenant. I watched these with Dad, because he started watching Prometheus. I'm like, fuck you, we're watching Covenant. I did this last night, you could have joined me and you didn't. That's on you. So anyway, because we were going to watch Romulus later that week, so we watched Covenant again. I hadn't seen it since, cinema. I watched the second half on Foxtel one time. Haven't logged it properly, so we started with Prologue Meet Walter, then Prologue Phobos, which I thought was really good. Prologue Last Supper, which is very, very necessary to watch before you watch the film. Really hate that it's not in the film, it should have been. Prologue The Crossing, which is just elaborated from what was already in the film, and I feel like also probably could have been in the film. And then Epilogue Advent, which, yes, we watched before we watched the movie, but we've already seen the film. Advent was interesting. The only thing it adds is just, David's gonna make that Daniels into a queen, and that's about it. So I was like, okay, cool. It's never gonna come to resolution because I ain't gonna make a third one, unfortunately, but here we go. So we watched Alien Covenant. I gave it 4 stars. I really like it as well. Again, a lot of people hate the characters, and I'm like, I don't fucking care, dude. It's a mad scientist movie. They're all meant to be experimented on. If you don't appreciate shitty B-movie films that are like William Castle films, or anything that has, all the Corman films, anything that's got, what's his name? I've got his face in my brain. He's the guy who was the vampire in that Muppets episode. Vincent Price. Anything with Vincent Price. It's like a big budget Vincent Price movie, except you get Michael Fassbender as Vincent Price's character, who also plays another character, and he does the fingering. It's hilarious. I love the neomorphs. I wish there was more morphing in it to some degree, but I really like the film. I wish the film was more explicit on the fact that David didn't create the xenomorphs, because he didn't. He just created a variation of them, which I discovered later. Again, I did a video talking about this stuff. I don't know if it's come out yet, but it's talking about the Alien franchise and what I think of them. And on the same night, I watched Small Soldiers, which is a 1998 film by Joe Dante. I gave it 3.5 stars. It was on Amazon Prime. It was kind of boring in the first half, very family-friendly-ish, very man, he really wanted to remake Gremlins, didn't he? But with CGI. But there's also great stop motion work, some great animatronics. Again, the CGI isn't bad. It's one of those like Toy Story things where it's like they're plastic models, so it doesn't reign too weird or eerie. But then the second half kicks in and it becomes a war film, and I'm like, this is great. Except for the musical choices, like when they use the song "War," the one that's infamously about how war is bad. But hey, we've got to use it. Why do people keep using those in movies? They used that in fucking Agent Cody Banks 2. I remember, I was a child once. I gotta make a video on that sometime, but I don't know if that'd be allowed to. Anyway, on the 13th, I did another double feature on Amazon Prime. I watched The Wrong Daughter, the Sydney Sweeney film. I gave it half a star. And then Nocturne, the Sydney Sweeney film, which I gave 2.5 stars. Again, I did my review on the Sydney Sweeney thing. The films themselves are, Nocturne is very middle of the road. If you haven't seen Black Swan, if you haven't seen, like, any film that's about, like, musical prodigies, you'll be like, wow, this is insanely good. If you have seen any film about musical prodigies, you'll be like, I've seen this before, it's kind of okay. The Wrong Daughter, hilariously bad. Kind of probably worth watching to some degree. It's a Lifetime film. It's bad, but then it gets funny, and then it gets worse. Much worse. On the 14th, because I was building up to Romulus, I watched Don't Breathe, which I hadn't seen before. That one was really interesting. I gave it 3.5 stars. Beautifully tense, had some great sequences. I feel like it could have had a bit more oomph to it. But yeah, again, I already knew the twist, which was disappointing, so it became one of those, oh, these guys are the bad guys. Oh, wait, that guy's the bad guy. Oh, but it became a question of morals and ethics, and I kind of like that about the film. I haven't yet to watch the second one, but I do have the Blu-ray. Don't ask me why. I got on sale in January. Don't worry. Anyway, I then watched Reality, the Sydney Sweeney one. I gave it 4 stars. Really good. Again, watch my Sydney Sweeney video. I dive into a lot more there. Really, really interesting thriller on binge if you are interested. Also really short. It's like 82 minutes. And then I watched Clash of the Titans because I got the 4K in and realized my brother wasn't coming home until very late that night, which was perfect. I gave it 3 stars. It's fun. Same goes for Wrath of the Titans. Wrath? I think it's Wrath. It could be Wrath. Anyway, that one. I watched that one the next day as well. I gave them both 3 stars. Watched the 4Ks. They actually look surprisingly good. The audio was quite nice as well. Again, it's just the standard 5.1 that they already had. Nothing uber-duper, Dolby Atmos or anything. I do think the films are fun. They're, schlocky blockbuster movies from the 2010s that had the benefit of being like, we're not trying to make a cinematic universe, so these are all singular individual films. Holy shit, isn't it crazy how we reappreciate these types of films because of how shitty Marvel and all those bloody comic book movies have fucked the cinematic industry. So now it's like, instead of getting one banger and then being like, here's a mediocre sequel, or maybe we can make a good sequel after, that isn't stressed upon in the first one. Oh, we got to build up to a sequel in the first one. We're not allowed to have an actual good, well-rounded film. Guess what? These are good, well-rounded films. To the point that there's not even a third one, and I like that about it. There was meant to be, but they didn't make one in the end, and I kind of appreciate that. But I think that they were quite fun. I think I prefer Wrath over Clash because I love the original Clash. There's a lot of comparison stuff, even though the effects in the new Clash, at least for Pegasus, look so much fucking better. But I like the story more in the original Clash. It's also like 20-25 minutes longer. This one's like 90 minutes, which is insane. It says it's 106, but there's like 15 minutes of credits. Maybe 11 minutes. I think it's like a 95-minute film. But I thought it was still fun, it's not bad. I enjoyed it, but I think Wrath was more interesting to me. I liked the visual effects more. I liked the action choreography more. It was not as choppy as the previous film. It's not as iconic, because again, you don't have like the Medusa head or anything, but I think Kronos is a more interesting visual villain than the Kraken. And yeah, they used more stuff with the gods in it, which I really liked. So, it was not bad. I enjoyed it. Then I watched Alien Romulus. I gave it 4 stars. I really liked it. Again, tricky one for me, and I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't seen it, but let's just put it this way, any callbacks to any of the previous films I wasn't huge on, but I still found it to be a comfortable film. I might give it a less star rating upon rewatch, just to see if I actually like it as much. Like with Trap, within a week I was able to give it an extra half star. This one I might detract half a star. I don't know yet. Either way, I had fun with it, and I think that it's just fun and worth watching to some degree. Like, a lot of people who are even huge Alien fans were not big on it, and then some were. So it's like, I don't think it matters anymore. You either like it or you don't. Hell, I openly admitted to liking Prometheus and Covenant, so, clearly there's no accounting for taste anymore these days. Anyway, on the 17th and the 18th, I did a Godzilla marathon for Myth, which involved rewatching all of these films. We had Godzilla 1954, 5 stars, Destroy All Monsters, 4 stars, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, 3.5 stars, The Return of Godzilla, 3.5 stars, Godzilla vs. Mothra, 4.5 stars, Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack, 4.5 stars, and Shin Godzilla, 4.5 stars. Just a hell of a night. I fell asleep part way through Return of Godzilla, but I didn't give a shit, I still logged it anyway. And I've also done a video talking about the whole experience, so check that out whenever the hell it comes out, if it is already or not, I don't know. And then I got home, went to sleep, woke up, watched The Shield. On the 19th, I watched Night of the Comet. Actually, that was the night that I finished Season 5 of The Shield, because I wanted to. There was like 4 episodes left. Bang them all out. Really good. Watched Night of the Comet. I gave it 3 stars. Really good 4K. Kind of an film, but, not bad. I can see the appeal for a lot of people, but it just wasn't really hitting it for me. It needed a bit more punch, and it just didn't have it. I've also done a video on these next few films, all called Night of the series, so yeah, I'm making content out of all kinds of bullshit. On the 20th, I watched Night of the Creeps, gave it 5 stars, love it, one of my favourites. Night of the Demons, I watched, gave it 4 stars, really interesting film. Characters are annoying on a ship, but then it kind of becomes funny, and then becomes gory, and then it becomes really good. Hell of an experience. Great 4K from Scream Factory, just like Night of the Comet. On the 21st, I did Night of the Demon, which I watched the extended original cut release. It's just kind of the original cut. It's not really extended. It's just longer than the other releases. Really, really good film. Shockingly similar to the Ring film, both the Japanese and the American one, in terms of, like, plot, which is really funny to me, but at the same time, really good, interesting characters, great drama, really brisk film. So, yeah, really worth watching. The demon effects are really cool. So, not a lot of it, but a great usage of it. And then I watched Night of the Eagle, which is also called Burn Witch Burn. I think that was a great double feature on its own merit, because that you'd think Night of the Demon, Night of the Demons, but these two films fit more because they're like 5-6 years apart. They even have one of the same cast members. It's a pretty similar kind of thing of one's about demonology, one's about witchcraft, but it's also about skepticism about believing it and how that can really like mess with people's heads and change their perception of reality. And Night of the Eagle is very, very much emphasizes that. I gave it 4 stars. I was initially like, it was okay, it just felt a bit messy, but then I watched the video talking about it and analysing it, and I thought about it for a bit, and I'm like, because, a lot of the times I'm just like, there's my review, goodbye. But I thought about it, and I was just like, it's really interesting. It's one that I would definitely enjoy, I think, rewatching this at some stage, because it just has this benefit to it where it constantly changes and shifts, and you think it's going to go in one direction and be like that for the next hour, but then it changes, and it changes again, and it goes back and forth, and it becomes a good kind of mesmerizing experience of utter chaos and witchery, and a really good villain. So, yeah. Then last night I watched, apart from watching more fucking The Shield, I watched Ghost in the Shell. I watched the 4K of this is the 95 version, the original. This is a rewatch. I haven't seen it since like 2020, I believe, maybe 2021, but I got the 4K in 2021, never watched it until now. Looks great. Good. Atmos is great. I actually watched the English dub, I just couldn't be fucked reading the subtitles. I'm like, nope, I'm just gonna watch it in English. I've seen it in like Japanese both times I've seen it, so it's like, third time's a charm, let's just watch it in English. I just wanted to get it all straight and understand everything, so it didn't lose me, because the film is very interpretive, very discussion heavy, very philosophically heavy. For me, that's both the benefit and the letdown. Like, it's very symbolic, metaphoric, all this kind of bullshit, and it's great, and the animation is stellar, and the characters are pretty interesting, very iconic characters, even though I don't think that they have a lot of weight, but they have an interesting presence at least. And yeah, it just gets to that stage where it's just like, it's just never going to be, I think, in my mind, a masterpiece, because it's lacking. I mean, it's also like 84 minutes. It's really short. So I was hoping that maybe there'd be something else to it, in a way that every time I watch it, I hope that it's a little bit extra. That's why I like Akira so much, because it has it extra. Not to mention the fact that it's only half of the comic book it's based on. So we'll see how that turns out in the end. But I liked it. I'm planning to watch Ghost in the Shell 2: Innocence tonight at the cinema, so that's why I rewatched it. But I had the day off today, so I watched Mysterious Intruder, which is another of the Whistler films. It's the only one that actually isn't called anything to do with the Whistler, which is kind of annoying. I think the next one is as well. I know there's like Return of the Whistler or whatever, but I think the next film, the 7th film in the series or whatever, it is got a different name. It's annoying, but it's part of the Whistler films. It's a William Castle. I gave it 3 stars. It's perfectly fine. It becomes a bit too convoluted with its plot that I actually didn't know who the hell the actual bad guy was in the end, because there's kind of several. I read the synopsis on Wikipedia, which luckily has it all detailed, thank God, and I realized, oh, that guy was oh my God, I didn't even realize. Okay, cool. Okay, there were too many characters in this hour-long film. But then I watched The Secret of the Whistler from 1946. I gave it 2.5 stars. It would have benefited from actually executing its premise about 45 minutes earlier, because it's for a 65-minute film. The premise doesn't come in till the 45-minute mark, and then it has to speed run the rest of it. So not bad, just not the best. And again, I don't think it's the weakest of the films. I think the weakest one currently is like I think the 4th one I'd seen. Yeah, was that the one at the lighthouse? I can't even remember. Yeah, but this one, I think that was the lighthouse one. This one's still fine. They're all perfectly watchable, perfectly enjoyable. If you like noirs, they're like, hey, that was an interesting, fun hour. Let's, I don't know, move on and continue. So what else do we watch this month? Okay, what do we have there? Where's my hair gone? Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, so right after I filmed all that stuff, I watched Ghost in the Shell 2: Innocence, which I gave 4 stars. Arguably better than the first one. It's hard to say. The first one's iconic. I love the animation. The story is very, very not there. But, philosophical themes, whatever the fuck. The second one is, I don't love the CG animation, despite it being pretty revolutionary for its time, which is fine. That's kind of what the first one was like as well. And it still is able to balance its themes of all the goddamn themes, whilst it's a very thematically heavy movie with all these kind of concepts and religious tones and all this philosophical stuff. Very much like the first one. It's very much a strong continuation, and following Bateau, who I find to be a much more interesting character. It's a good mystery. It's very, what the fuck is going on, and then it reveals what's happened, and you're like, oh wow, that was really interesting. Yeah, it's got some fun action set pieces as well. It was great. We got to watch it as a 4K restoration in the cinema, which is good, in Japanese. And yeah, I haven't watched it for a good number of years, so I didn't remember most of what had happened in the film. But there are elements that I prefer in the first one in contrast to the second one, so that's why they're back and forth. But I like the story and the characters more in the second one, but I like the visuals, and it's kind of more meditative effect in the first one, but again, much like how I said in the first one, never hits that strive of being something so beautifully iconic like Akira, is because it also lacks kind of a resolution. It lacks a lot of character stuff that I really like in Akira. So this one, Ghost in the Shell 2, kind of has that stuff. So yeah, I don't know. It's also a funny film. There's a dog in it, cute dog. What else do we have? I also watched Cuckoo, or I believe it's not actually called Cuckoo, but either way, it's this Hunter Schafer film. I went to MIF again. I'm really not big on film festivals, but I guess I gotta see Terrifier 3 at Monster Fest. Oh god. Yeah, that'll probably be much better worth it than seeing it in a regular cinema, because I remember seeing Terrifier 2 and people were on their phones in the front goddamn row. There's one screening a day. Go to hell. Anyway, it was fine. I gave it 3 stars. I wasn't big on it because a lot of it's horror stuff. I was like, man, what's all these bad jump scares? This kind of sucks. But then I thought the characters were interesting and the premise was interesting. Dan Stevens, I love. Can't go wrong with him. And Hunter was really good. Like, I haven't seen her in much. I've seen her in Euphoria and in that one scene of Kinds of Kindness, which was so... It's gone by the time it's arrived that you're like, she's not coming back for the rest of the movie. She's on the poster. She's like a big part of the marketing campaign. She's in it for 2 minutes. The movie's 3 hours long. What's happening here? So anyway, yeah. It's fine. I think it's fine. I don't see why people are saying that she's a final girl. I'm like, what are you talking about? Shut up. This isn't a slasher film. Fuck off. Anyway, it was still fine. I enjoyed it. On the 25th, I watched The Quick and the Dead, and that one was also a 3-star movie for me. I was like, man, I love these visuals. Sam Raimi's directing. Holy shit. But then the characters weren't very interesting, and the story wasn't very interesting. It was the classic, oh, we're in a western town and we all need money, so let's shoot each other for money. Make it a thing. And then they just keep changing and breaking the rules because conflict, and the characters were not that interesting, and then it was over. It, again, visually, holy shit, beautifully Sam Raimi, love it. Like, he really wanted to do a western, and they were like, no one's doing this shitty movie script of, again, the 5th version of Quick and the Dead. So there are a lot of movies called The Quick and the Dead. It's really concerning. And yeah, it just didn't impress me that much. I was like, yeah, it's alright. I don't think I'll watch it again anytime soon. Maybe for another decade or something. But I'm happy to have the 4K. So, you know, it looked great. So, I don't know. Sharon Stone's good in it. Russell Crowe's good. So it has some good... It has a great, big, good cast. But it's like, they're not always that interesting. But yeah, anyway. Then I watched Don't Breathe 2. Now, that one I didn't expect to find much appreciation for because I liked the first one a lot. Different director this time, but it's still... Fede was still attached. I even watched the special features afterwards, and like Fede was like, yeah, me and the guy who what's his name? I actually want to create his name, Rodo Seguez. I'm going to call him Rodo. So Fede and Rodo worked on the first film, co-wrote it, produced it, Fede directed it, because he was the known director, you know, gets it off the ground. And so they come back to Don't Breathe 2, and they're like, Rodo can direct it this time, so we can have, you know, I do one, he does the other, whatever. You know, same creative team, a lot of the same crew, and they're really picked up on its technical craft and everything. They even worked on Alien Romulus together, like the same guys. And I really, really liked it. I gave it 4 stars, and I was like, holy shit, like, I was expecting exploitation, because that's what people had said. They're like, take the guy from the first one and make it an exploitation film. And it really ramps into that exploitation avenue. But it's also a lot of people hate it because the main guy is the goddamn old man from the first film. And I think that was a good choice. Because you immediately go into it being like, this is a bad person. He did bad things. We shouldn't like him. But then suddenly he's put in this pretense of, actually he's done good things, but he is still a bad person. Like, he's not redeemed. He's just doing a good thing that is benefiting him, but maybe not benefiting the girl who he's now adopted. I wonder where she came from. These people have broken into his house. What do they want? What's that? They want the girl. What's happening here? And then it evolves, and it gets bigger, and you realize those bad guys might be the good guys, but then the bad guys might be the good guys, and the good guys might be the bad guys. And you realize everyone's morally grey, and it's like, oh my god, this is great. And it's got some great action set pieces, some really good tense sequences, not as iconic as the first one in terms of its use of tension, but it breaks it up. This one's big Don't Breathe tension section is a one-shot take in the house with the young girl, and it's really interesting. It's maybe a bit pretentious because it's a big one-shot take, but they did that in the first one as well, just not as noticeable. But in the first one it's more of a understanding geography, and this one still kind of does that, but it's always just following the girl. But the benefit of this one too is it ramps it up from there. It's not just about that Don't Breathe premise. It's also, you know, about revenge. It's great. It's gritty. It's gnarly. It's bloody. It's gory. It's funny. It's even got one-liners. I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. I'm like, man, this is really fun. I'm really excited for a third one. I guess we'll see how it goes. On the 26th, I did a double feature of El Mariachi, which I gave 3.5 stars. I thought it was pretty fun. I watched it as a part of the Mexico trilogy box set from Arrow Video, and yeah, I was pretty impressed by it. I was like, man, this is pretty fun. It's not amazingly huge and amazingly impressive, but I found it fun. It was energized. It was constantly moving, really interestingly shot. The behind-the-scenes stuff is really interesting. So, pretty fun film. I can see why people like it so much. Like that low-budget feel, but also passion and energy and life going into it, and a lot of just experimental fun. I thought it was good. And then I watched the short film called Bedhead that Rodriguez had also done, featured on the same Blu-ray, which was basically like what if Sam Raimi directed Carrie. And I really found it quite interesting. I was like, man, this is actually quite fun. I'm like, man, these Rodriguez films early years are pretty fun. I hope they continue. So I watched Desperado on the 27th. I gave it 3 stars. I wasn't huge on it. And I realized why I wasn't huge on it. It's because, like, as much as the action's fun and impressive, I've seen From Dusk Till Dawn, so the action in that film for me was a lot more impressive. And again, it's one of those things of, for the time period when it came out, it was revolutionary, completely different, completely fresh. I can see why people value it so highly. Even Gareth Edwards, who is it Evans or Edwards? I think it's Edwards. The guy who did the Raid films, like, he praises this as one of his like biggest inspirations. I'm like, so I've come from a perspective of I've seen what's come after the fact before I've seen what's originated it, kind of deal. Like watching a Tarantino film and then seeing what's inspired it. And sometimes what's inspired it is amazing and gorgeous and better than what Tarantino could do, but sometimes Tarantino's just done a little bit of that, taken a little bit and worked other things into it as well. So while I still think Desperado is a good film, I think it is lackluster in some of them between the action scene parts, because I don't care much for the bad guy, and I don't care as much for the main characters even. Like, I like the first film because of its, wrong person, wrong place, mistaken identity kind of stuff. I like that trope. And this one is just, he's just there to do revenge against people who didn't exist in the first film, but now suddenly do it. I'm like, okay, sure. Whatever, plot, do what you gotta do. What's that, Salma Hayek? Holy shit. So, there's some amazing stuff to still see in this movie. And it's still quite fun. The 4K looks great, so I can understand why people love it so much. And I think on rewatch, I can definitely enjoy it more, so I definitely still liked it a lot. It's good, it's just, it didn't really hit me with a huge wow factor, because everything that is the wow factor in it, I've seen done in later films by either the same guy or different people. So it's not as impressive to me, because I'm like, I've seen this. It's like watching a John Woo film. I've seen this, So, yeah. But then I watched, on the 28th, Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Yeah, that was much more disappointing. That I gave 2 stars. I was like, man, it's a much quicker plot, keeps you interested, keeps it going, but it's also because there are like 100 subplots, and Johnny Depp is too overwhelming as a character to make anything else want to be... Like, he disappears from the film for like 10 minutes. I'm like, go back to Johnny Depp. This film feels empty. What's happening? Where's our main character gone? And then we cut back to Johnny Depp. I'm like, yes, he's back. But then I'm thinking, wait, Desperado's in this... Not Desperado. El Mariachi's in this film. I'm meant to be focused on him. What's that? He's just a gun for hire? Wow. This is a real magnum opus we've got here. No, it isn't. I was disappointed by it. It has its perks. The digital cinematography looks way too much like Spy Kids, that it's a bit surreal. I know it's more of a Spy Kids 2 look and Spy Kids 3 look, if anything, because digital cameras, whatever, basically anything after this film that he's done is digital cameras, with maybe an added grain effect in post. Cough, cough, everything he's done. But I can still, I watched the behind-the-scenes thing, and the behind-the-scenes stuff that they have for these films are really good. And Rodriguez talking about how there was a writer's strike coming up, so they quickly wrote it and basically filmed the thing within like 2 months. And it shows, because it's just that level of messy. There's just too much happening and no real consistency. Like, it's still fine, perfectly watchable, but it was just like... disappointing. So, and I wasn't expecting something on par with Mariachi. I was like, or even on par with Desperado. But like, I don't know. It's fine. It's just not very great. And also, they kill off Salma Hayek. So I'm like, fuck off. So yeah, I thought maybe to smooth it out with Rodriguez, maybe I could find a film. I didn't want to watch Spy Kids yet, and I still haven't, but like, or at least to rewatch it. I was like, I want to watch something else of his that I haven't seen. Let's watch Four Rooms, because I got the Vision release last year. I thought it was better than Once Upon a Time in Mexico. I gave it 2.5 stars, but it's also... It's not great, because it's one of those 4, basically, anthology films with the same character in between, all set on the same night, all the bellboy thing, whatever the hell, and 4 different writers and directors, and they don't know what the other people have written. One sequence does combine with a different sequence, because characters talk on the phone, and I didn't realize that until I was actually watching... because I recognized in the second sequence the girl talking on the phone, and was like, oh, that's from that other sequence and whatever. And then I saw the behind the scenes featurette, and they showed the earlier version in the film, and I was like, oh wow, you literally just hear the guy on the phone as well, so that's why it sounds confusing. And I'm like, oh, I get it. It's literally the same pieces of dialogue, the same conversation. Anyway, whatever. I liked the first short with the witches. It was interesting. The characters were nice, decently directed. It was fine, you know. The second one I didn't like. What was the second one? The second one I didn't like at all. That was the one with the husband and the wife in the bedroom, and she's tied up, whatever. I thought it was just annoying. Tim Roth's performance in this movie is real make or break. He's interesting as a really overly comical character, but I don't like it. It's too like, he's just on cocaine the whole time, and then it just, as the movie keeps going, it teeters off, and he's just it starts wearing off, and that's when I find it to be much more enjoyable. So you get to the second half of the film, and the third sequence is the Rodriguez one. The first 2 are done by people I've never heard of, who haven't made many films, so it's like, okay. And the third sequence, done by Rodriguez, is probably the most interesting one, and the best one in terms of direction and characters, and I like Tim Roth in it. I like the kids, but then it does that thing that, like, I realized, I'm pretty sure the Spy Kids films do this as well. The kids start smelling each other's feet, and one kid puts his toe in his mouth, and I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? It's just really weird. Like, I guess, sure, maybe kids smell each other's feet for some goddamn reason, but it was also kind of this weird eroticism to it. I did not like it. Like, knowing that Tarantino was involved, I'm like, yeah, but I think this was also, like, really a Rodriguez thing, because I'm pretty sure he does this stuff in Spy Kids as well. And I'm pretty sure I remember seeing that in the original Spy Kids film, being like, why are they so big on feet? Anyway, I don't know, it's fucking weird. Maybe he just did that with his siblings as kids, because they were kids, and that's just something that he experienced. I can understand it, but it's just like, there's a pseudo-sexual take that doesn't work, because in the rest of the film, everything else is a pseudo-sexual take. The first section with the witches, half of them are naked, and he has to have sex with one of them so they can finish their potion. The second one is literally did he have sex with this woman who's married to this guy? He didn't, because he doesn't know who they are, but they think he did, or at least the husband does, and then maybe the husband wants to have sex with him, so it's got this, like, homoerotic element to it, but I don't know if it's joking or not, because it's just too weird. And again, the third sequence has that thing as well of just these kids who are siblings having this weird erotic kind of feet play thing. I don't know. It's still a fun sequence. Like, there's some great acting in it, some great visuals. Antonio Banderas is fun. They've got a dead body under the sheets, but then Tim Ruff's character keeps calling her, basically a slur, and I'm like, man, why does he suddenly do that? Especially knowing that it's actually, like, Rodriguez's sister who's playing the dead body. It's just like, what the fuck is happening? And then the last sequence is the one that's written and directed by Tarantino, and he's leading it as well as the actor. He's not good. He's playing a rich Hollywood type. I'm pretty sure he's just playing himself because he's literally written dialogue for himself talking about Jerry Lewis films and all this stuff. So he's just playing himself. And I'm like, man, if this is actually what Tarantino's like, I never want to meet the guy. Pretentious and wanky, and I really want to punch him in the face. As much as I love his films, some artists, pretentious fucking dickheads, and this is his peak pretentious stuff with like, I've just done Pulp Fiction, the greatest film of all time. No one can touch me. And I'm like, shut up. You made 4 rooms. That's your third feature, you son of a bitch, Mr. I'm only doing 10 films and I've only done 9 because Kill Bill was 1 film and 4 rooms doesn't count. And I'm like, grow up. Anyway, bad sequence, awful. It's really, really bad. It leads to one really good punchline, but you have to get through like 10 minutes of the most painful dialogue and acting you've ever seen to get to that one punchline. And then it's over, and you can shoot yourself in the face, I guess. Anyway, not great. I gave it 2.5 stars. The first sequence and third sequence are the best ones, but even then, they're not perfect. On the 29th, my brother's girlfriend was over, so they were watching films, and they actually watched The Tunnel, which I haven't seen yet, so they didn't like it, so I'm not huge. But I have the Blu-ray, so it's my fault. But they wanted to watch something that was set in one location and scary, and also horror, like really horror. So obviously my brother and I were like, how about Wreck? You know, that one, the zombie horror film, the Spanish one. So we watched Wreck. Watched the Arrow Video Blu-ray, which I haven't seen yet. I only saw the DVD release, which I find to be really funny because Noah had only seen the Blu-ray because him and another friend of his like 2 years ago had seen it. And they're like, man, that Wreck was really good. I wish there was more films. And I'm like, you mean these? And I whipped out the DVD that has all 4 goddamn movies. So yeah, we rewatched it. I gave it 4 stars. Last time I gave it 4.5. I was super impressed by it. But this time I'm like, a lot of the stuff is a bit too predictable sometimes. Like you can see that there's like a bit of wiggle room between when they're going to have dialogue and when the jump scare is going to happen. So it's got a bit of a cliche verge to it, but it's really inventive with its style. It's never annoying or nauseating with its like first-person camera stuff, the found footage stuff. I like how they set up like this mystery that goes along as to what exactly is happening, where this disease came from, and then the revelations hit, and then bam, it's too late, you're all going to die. And of course an iconic ending, so yeah, and the sound design was insane. The 5.1 mix, it was going all the way around the room. Like, it was already quite loud, and we probably shouldn't have had it as loud as we did, but no one else complained. But it got to a stage where they get into the penthouse, and it's all dark, and of course, because it's Spanish, you get some subtitles, so it allows you to have a bit of, break out from the immersion. But, like, the sounds of all the people screaming and the zombies is going fucking circling the goddamn room, and it was really impressive. Which is one thing I can say in contrast to Once Upon a Time in Mexico, where its sound mix was atrocious. I fucking hated it. The 5.1 mix was way too heavy with conversations at the front, and then all these sound effects and people singing and music in the back, and it was so loud I couldn't hear what they were saying at the front, so I changed it to the 2.0 stereo, and then everything was just at the front, and then there was no energy to it, like all the music was just kind of there in the background, like it was all too distant, like it had gone through the other fucking wall. So I changed it back to the 5.1, and it was so loud. Even the end credits plays a song where they have these guitars playing, and it goes in the back speakers and the front speakers, and you can hear it just pulling back and forth. And I'm like, what is happening? And that's the original audio mix. Anyway, Wreck was great in contrast. Holy shit. It might have been loud, but at least it was consistent. And then last night I watched The Primevals. I gave it 2.5 stars. Wasn't impressed. I was like, this first hour was really boring. There's no conflict. The characters aren't that interesting. There's no drama. And by conflict, I mean, like, it's just an expedition. It's just people exploring. There's no interpersonal drama. There's no outside force that they have to fight. It's just, let's chase Yeti. Oh, look, there's a hole. Wow, look, monkey people. Wow, look, lizard people. Wow, look, a Yeti. Let's run away now. That's about it. The stop motion is fantastic, but the plot and the characters, not so much. For a film that took so many years to do, you'd think they would have actually rewritten the script to make it a bit more interesting. But, yeah, one of those passion projects that I think that people were so happy with to begin with and thought about the bigger picture of all the creatures that they didn't think about the first hour and how boring it was. The last act is really fun, But that's just because it's got all the monsters and stuff, and stuff is happening. There's conflict and drama, and most of it's just characters have to escape because otherwise they'll die. But the first hour is just eh. And then I'm watching The Shield. Obviously, I mentioned at the start of the video, I've finished season 6. I'm into season 7. My God, what a great show. Loving it. Good stuff. I'm gonna go because tonight I have to watch Tommy. Bye. Cut to Tommy. To conclude the month, we watched Tommy. I didn't actually get around to watching anything else today. I've been so busy moving stuff that I just had vinyls playing the whole day, which, oh my God, my parents have some weird vinyls. One of them is like a Jane Fonda workout mix, which is set to all this like 70s disco music. And then there was one that was called Looney Tunes, which is like, I think, like a band or something. Either way, a lot of wacky sounds and, you know, that Alvin the Chipmunk stuff and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, and fame, because I am a man of taste and culture. Anyway, so I went to the Astor for the Cinemaniacs session of Tommy, which was presented in 4K, which was really nice. I've never seen the film before. I'm becoming more and more interested in Ken Russell's works, as viable as I can get any kind of access to them, because, my God, not easy to find most of his films. You know, I've seen Lair of the White Worm, I've seen The Devils Twice, I've seen Altered States, all courtesy of the Criterion channel. But this time, yeah, on a big screen, and my God, I would love to watch more of his films on the big screen with a crowd, because they are insane. And I gave Tommy 4 stars in the end. The thing is, I can understand why people dislike it, but it's one of those things of, it's such a kind of unique thing. It's a perpetual motion of just noise. It's just constant music, and it's constant sounds, and constant visuals, and constant things. And it's interesting. I feel like it's almost somewhat ironic to the fact of, like, you know, the main character Tommy, who is noted as being the pinball wizard, who is, you know, dumb and deaf and blind, and so I feel like that's what, like, this film is almost like kind of doing in its own tongue-in-cheek way, where, again, you're deafened by all of the music that's constantly playing, you're blinded by the fact that it's all, like, exceedingly visual imagery, both in terms of, like, metaphoric stuff, and all the story is presented in a hugely only visual way that's rarely ever dissected in the music itself, because I guess fuck dissecting what's happening in the movie by using the actual music. We're just gonna keep playing music. It's a hell of a film. Sometimes they dissect stuff, sometimes they don't. Sometimes that theme of the see me, feel me, touch me, which again is from one of the Who's songs, is ever present throughout the whole song, and throughout the whole film, and it is just a hell of a thing. So yeah, the deaf, dumb, and blind. Dumb because, again, maybe you could see this as a dumb piece of shit. And it's like, yeah, it tears people up. It's yeah. You know, I know when I mentioned to my dad that I was going to watch this, he was like, alright, have fun. Like, he's obviously seen it before and wasn't big of a fan of it. So, yeah, but I really liked it. I could imagine watching this again for certain. I mean, hell, I've watched The Devils twice. I've watched Lair of the White Worm. I've watched Altered States. They're all weird films, but they have something else to them. It's an extra level of some oomph that I really appreciated, and it's a hell of a way to kick off the end of what's been a very interesting month of film watching. About 50-odd films. I think maybe almost 60. There's been a lot, but again, a lot of them were, like, again, those whistle films, which are all an hour each, and a lot of watching The Shield, so I could have watched more films, but I really like watching TV shows sometimes, so yeah. Anyway, I'll finish The Shield next month, so that'll be exciting. And that's it for now. Plenty more to watch next month. Got more movies coming in, obviously, so there's going to be a lot. So, one day I'll take a break. 1 month I'll take a break, maybe. I don't know, who cares. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Adios.